At exactly 2:13 a.m., I felt the air stop. Not the lights, not the sound. Then, something breathed instead of me. I didn't move. I didn't scream. Because whatever it was very close. I took the flat because it was cheap. Too cheap. The kind of cheap that swallows questions. The kind of cheap you choose when you don't want to be found. The landlord didn't ask where I came from. He didn't ask why I needed the key right away. He slid it across the counter and said one thing: "Don't block the door to the spare room." I laughed. It came out thin. He didn't smile back. He looked past me as if listening to something I couldn't hear. "It doesn't like that," he said, and then he shut the door like closing a mouth. The building lived between two empty shops, a third-floor flat with dusty windows and pipes that hummed like old machinery. You could sit in the window at noon and watch nothing move. No delivery vans, no people, just the hum. There were 2 bedrooms, one for me and one I didn't need. The spare room sat at the end of a hallway that narrowed until the ceiling seemed lower. Its door was swollen with moisture, the paint cracked, the wood bowed inward. No handle, no lock, only a smooth indentation as if a hand had been erased. I told myself it was a quirk. I told myself a dozen things to stay sane. The first night I slept like someone who had not slept in days. Not from nightmares, from rhythm. At 2:13, I woke to a slow, wet sound. Inhale, exhale. Not loud, but close. Too close. I lay still and measured my chest. 1, 2, 3. It matched me. At first, I blamed the pipes, then the vents, then the walls. Then I realized the sound wasn't around me. It was in the hallway, and it kept the same cadence as my breath, copying me exactly, as if it were learning the space between my lungs. The next morning, the door to the spare room was open, just a crack, a slit of darkness like an unblinking eye. I called the landlord. He asked one question: "Did it breathe?" I didn't say yes or no. He sighed and told me what everyone who'd lived there told him. They noticed first. "They always notice first," he said. "Just don't give it a reason to notice you back." I tried to ignore it. I did things to keep away. Longer shifts at work, drinking in bars until the city noise buried the waiting of the apartment. But it came every night at 2:13. Sometimes slow, sometimes sharp like a fist driving into the throat. Sometimes so shallow it sounded like someone pretending to sleep. And sometimes it stopped. Those nights were worse because silence meant it was listening. After a week, I found scratches on my bedroom door. Thin, vertical, a child's counting marks. Fingernails testing the wood. I started sleeping with the light on. It didn't help. Light is useless when something doesn't see. One morning, I woke unable to move. The familiar paralysis that squeezes the throat. I told myself sleep paralysis. Tried to reason with the rational part of my brain. Then the pressure came, not on my chest, not on my throat, inside my lungs. A hand's room, slow and warm and invasive. My breath was no longer mine to hold. A cold sentence slipped into my head. "You breathe like you're alone." The next morning, the bathroom mirror was fogged from the inside. On the glass, traced from a finger I didn't have, one word appeared: learn. Long pause. I wrote it down. I watched the letters as if watching them rot. I stopped sleeping. I stopped eating. The apartment tightened, a fist closing. Long pause. The spare room door nudged itself open wider each day, just a fraction, an invitation. Short pause. Now I could see inside. No furniture, no windows, only darkness, thick and layered like crowded cloth. Something moved in and out of that darkness, not forward and back, but inward, folding like a lung collapsing in on itself. Long pause. On the 13th night, I stood in the hallway at 2:13. The breathing was louder then, urgent and wet, like someone who'd learned to panic. I was taller when I was terrified, height a trick of adrenaline. I said the only thing that came to my mouth: "What do you want?" Long pause. The inhale stopped. A long, heavy pause. Then a voice exhaled through that gap: "To finish what you interrupted." Long pause. The spare room had changed. It wasn't empty. It was missing something or someone, and where absence waited, it chose to fill. The floor inside felt warm, like skin. It pulsed with a heartbeat no architect had put there. The walls breathed. They became a rib cage, opening and closing with the slow patience of tide and hunger. Long pause. The air carried memories that weren't mine. Salt and old soap, the weight of regret, the small hot panic of someone trying to apologize while drowning. I stepped in. I tasted other mouths. I shouldn't have gone in so far. I should have backed away. Long pause. The door closed without a sound. The hallway folded like a page turning, and I was inside the book. A chorus came, dozens of voices overlapping like breaths in a crowded room. You live by breathing. We live by sharing. Long pause. It inhaled. My chest wouldn't cooperate. My lungs burned. My vision tunneled black at the edges. Then suddenly, relief. Air rushed too much, not mine, filling cavities that had been empty. My ribs rose and fell in a rhythm not mine. The room had found a tempo and made me the instrument. Long pause. When I woke, cold tile under my cheek, the door shut behind me, I was alive. Barely. Weeks passed. Months. I thought I had survived. Until the night I woke at 2:13 to a new silence, dense and intentional. Short pause. When I put my hand to my chest, I felt movement not my own. A pulse that wasn't a pulse. A breath renting space inside me. Something wrote into me with patience. Now don't block the door. Long pause. I tried to test it. I closed the spare room door and put a chair against it. Old superstition, old instinct. At 2:13, the air stopped. Surgical. The world inhaled and held. My hands went numb. My ears filled with the sound of my own blood. Inside my chest, something methodically drew breath. Long pause. It practiced on me, learned how my lungs opened and how my throat rounded. It mapped the small pauses I carried when I swallowed. The chair fell. The door opened a fraction. A sliver of dark found its way, wet and patient. It leaned into my body and learned which way my lungs opened. Long pause. The next morning, a tally on my wrist. One night taken, one more counted. Days bled. The spare room became presence, not place. Patient, hunger. I kept a ledger, scrawled notes. Breath too fast. Mirror, learn. Door half open. My handwriting smudged because my hand shook. Long pause. I met another tenant in the stairwell whose eyes hadn't slept. He said only, Don't let it watch you breathe. We nodded and passed like ghosts of different tragedies. Short pause. The night it truly decided to teach me, I tried to refuse. I shouted at the room, "I will not teach you back." It answered with the human sound of someone trying to speak while drowning. It showed me memories to breed pattern, small deaths layered as lessons. "You think you're alone," it breathed. "You think lungs belong only to you, but lungs are a museum of endings. We keep them warm." Long pause. That night I failed. I learned. When I came back, sun felt shameful. Cold tiles, the spare room closed, the scratches replaced by a hollow I could put my ear to and hear someone else breathing. Weeks later, a child's shoe at my bed, small, muddy, impossible. The taste in my mouth was pennies. Long pause. Tonight, I record this because writing steadies my hands. It's 2:13. The window is a strip of black. The hall is a throat. I can feel it learning the last edge of my inhale. It is patient, slow. It hums when it thinks. The spare room door is both promise and threat. Short pause. If you are hearing this, if your room ever feels narrower than it should, if the air pauses long enough to be intentional, check your hallway. Long pause. And whatever you do, don't learn how it breathes. Long pause.